Guess who's back? What's up, everyone? How's everyone doing in the chat tonight? Once again, apologize for the CPT. I didn't mean for it. To be honest with you, I'm just not having a good day today. I haven't planned the stream out as I usually do, so I don't know how it's gonna go. But whilst not having a good day, I remembered, man, these stream of streams is not just about me. It's not just about me personally. It's about the community, right? A lot of people have things to say. A lot of people have things to get off their chest. So I'm really doing it for our little community. Do you know what I mean? So my my feelings, whatever's happened today. I need to get the show running. So I just apologize for the late time. I realize in the banner, man, what I should say is from 10 p.m. Just to keep it real. But hey, apologies again. Press a 1 if you hear the sound good. If the sound is good, press a 1. I know it's late for a lot of you UK dons out here, man. Salute to everyone coming through. I see Skillsman Reloaded. He says he needs to go soon. I appreciate that. But he says, but to answer your question, yes. So the question today is, are British black men too sensitive when it comes to racism? Right? Are British black men, and obviously the title is for the algorithm. We can just say black people in general, men and women, etc., whether you're British or American. Are we sensitive towards racism? And I'm going to start off with a few exhibits. Namely, there's a YouTuber who I kind of want to respond to because I posted a video earlier on during the day. He goes by the name of Black Man the Traveler. Check him out. He seems like a good travel vlogger. And I actually want to speak about something different today. I actually want to speak about the England female team because there's some controversy around that as well. Namely with, it seems like black people complaining that the whole team is composed or was composed of blonde females, right? But this came up, and I think it was a much more pressing issue to discuss, right? And also, we had the incident in Italy where that Nigerian guy got beat to death. And this kind of all aligned because I had some experiences in Italy as a destination where I had issues. But anyway, let me salute to everyone. I see my bro, Mr. Uganda, in the building. Good to see you, bro. I see Manchester boy M15. Good to see you, bro. Says big up. Salute to you. David of Midguy in the building. Salute to you, bro. He says the sound is good. Mr. Uganda says the sound is good. Ayo in the building. Salute to you. Ephraim Mackworth in the building. Salute to you. Right, let's just get into it, man. Let me keep it succinct. This question, man, I think a lot of black guys get told by other ethnic groups that we need to develop a thick skin. We're too sensitive. Things like the N-word comes into question. How can you guys say it to each other and we can't say it to you? Why are you so sensitive? We got, that's the general theme. I don't even need to go deeper into that, right? So I just want to ask the question off the back of this YouTuber. I'm going to quickly play his video right now, just so I don't keep you guys waiting. Again, his video is linked in the description below. His name is tagged in the title. He's a bigger YouTuber, so I doubt he'll respond to this. I see more people in the building. Jessica X, salute to you. I see Red Sings the Blues. Good salute to you, bro. And so this is the video that I am talking about. Let me just share my screen 1 second. I'm going to open it up shortly. I'm not going to label before you too long. Let me just share my screen right here. Where is it? There we go. And so we see the screen. Let me just bring it up so you don't see nonsense. Okay, let's go.
Burger King over here where I am, but I'm not.
And by the way, free use. This is free use. I'm only going to show a snippet of this video of what I'm citing.
Gonna have no Burger King. Gotta try something local. Oh, let me.
So for context, this is a brother who's traveled to India. He's got many videos, so I do say check him out, man. He seems like a very bodacious guy. Doesn't fear anything. Last few videos was going to Pakistan, so this time he went to India. I believe it's northern India. So this is basically his experience coming up.
Guys, hopefully you guys can see me. Look, there's a Burger King right over here, but I'm not gonna try that. I want to try something local today. We get some local food. I've had a very long day today. I've been traveling from 8 in the morning to 9 in the night. Wasted most of my day over here.
Wait a second. I see something in the chat. AO says, look at the way he looks. He deserves what he gets. Bro, are you really sure about that? He deserves to be racially abused because of how he looks. Is that what we're saying? To be honest, I don't see anything outrageous enough for him to be chastised racially, to be honest with you. I mean, what, because he's got his natural hair out, is that an issue? Anyway, let's play the video and let's comment afterwards.
Yeah, in the bus, nothing but buses over here. It's been a very stressful day today. Look, they've even got a perfume, they've even got a liquor shop. There's a shop that sells alcohol. Are you alright? Nice to meet you. What did he say? What did you say? Karaba?
How are you?
What did you say before? Don't call me Karaba. You understand? Wait, be careful. Don't call me Karaba. I understand Hindi, yeah? Yeah, Charabata you. Be careful, you stupid idiot, alright? Fucking idiot. Be careful. Be careful. Alright? I'm not Indian, alright? Behave yourself. Listen, tell him, don't call me black something. I speak a bit of Hindi. I understand. No. Have a good day. So, you got a stupid man over here talking stupidness.
Okay, so that's pretty much the snippet. That's pretty much the context of this man's video. Again, check out his video, Black Man the Traveler. I mean, I only recently found him. He's got good stuff. Again, he's very blunt, very open. Yeah, but fair use. I don't believe we need to show any more than that. So that is basically what inspired me to get this live stream going as opposed to the other topics. Okay, AO says not really racially abused. But come on, we can't say that black people deserve what they get because of how they look. I mean, what about all those white guys surfing in like Hawaii, like wearing Jesus sandals and nose piercings, all of that? We're not going to say they deserve what they get, but at least they get a certain amount of respect, right? What's everyone saying? Mr. Uganda says internalized anti-blackness would explain that response, Falcon. Yeah, that's what I heard. They say India is generally that way with their caste system. And I guess that's another angle, man. Why would people knowingly go to countries that have, at least a history of quote unquote anti-blackness? Someone else also says he needs to cut that rag on top of his head and scratch his beard. Can't be walking out scruffy. Okay, that's fair enough. You're critiquing his fashion, but to get racially abused, I believe that word, I think it's something like kalamanda, means black monkey. Are we saying that that's okay? And AO says, let's be honest, we need to carry ourselves with self-respect by our appearances. That's correct. Of course, I agree with that. I align with that train of thought, but I mean, does this man really look that alien to be called a black monkey? Let's see. Let me see the video again. Let me share it a bit more.
Oh, you alright? Nice to meet you. You wanna? Huh? Okay, no problem. One guy just called me black monkey. He thinks I don't understand Hindi. Fucking racist guy. This guy is stupid.
And look, I'm not gonna label for you too long, man. I can say I know the feeling, man. Like I posted in his video actually, and I know the feeling when you've You spent so much money, you spent putting so much time and energy to travel to some man's country, and then out of nowhere, you get some heckling, you get some racist abuse. You know what I mean? So I believe all throughout if you watch the rest of the video, his mood is down. He doesn't have that enthusiasm. Uh, and it's sad. But this is the question: are black men in general too sensitive towards racism? And let me just open it up now. I'm gonna say my piece while I put the link in the chat. Anyone can come up with your experiences. I guess this video or this stream is about generally your experiences with racism, or is the UK racist? UK versus other countries. Your general experience, and obviously answering the question. Right. Again, apologies, man. I'm not in a good mood today. I'll just keep it 100. But the show must go on. So call in if you got anything to say. Same old format. We talk in a circle. Link in the chat. But let me just say my piece, man, or a little piece. Yeah, to some extent, every human being needs to have a certain level of thick skin, right? Because this is the real harsh reality of the world. You're going to be abused. You're going to feel pain. Things are going to not always be happy, honky-dory. You're going to have misery here and there, right? But there is and I'm preaching to the choir. There is something just inhumane about being caught, like just being heckled out of racism, right? And I think everyone has experienced that. And that's not right. It doesn't matter how a person looks, even if you're a homeless man on the street, that is no right to be, you know, thrown or hurled racist abuse at, right? You know? But yeah, I see Kings and Queens in the building. He says, yo, Falcon, apologies, I came late. Which country is this? Some Asian countries, including India, have a caste system where dark peoples are called Dalits. I believe that's called untouchables, right? And are treated poorly, very sad. So yeah, he's apparently in northern India. He's in northern India. And I believe people are recommending that he goes to the south, where I guess there are more Christians or they're more darker. But yeah, and I think, that's an issue. When guys want to travel, when guys want to do their vlogging and stuff, you need to really do your research. I know he's a content creator, so he's doing it probably for the culture. He's doing it to show the world how it is, etc., etc. But we really need to do our research, man, because that's one thing I didn't do when I traveled to a few quote unquote racist countries or countries that treated me not so warmly, namely Italy. And we got my man JLC in the building. He's the one that brought it to my attention. An Nigerian guy in Italy got beat to death by an Italian for calling some woman beautiful. And I've always said for many years that Italy has something growing. It's like an energy you can feel when you're over there. General disrespect, scowls, like people looking at you like crazy. Let's see who else in the building and let's see what JLC has to say. Again, the link's in the chat if you want to discuss this with us. Manchester Boy M15 says, a white woman could call me the N-word, and honestly, I don't care. I'm money and business motivated. I would say that is my general mentality. But in reality, let's keep it 100. If a white woman on the street or any other woman calls us the N-word, are we really just gonna shrug it off and just continue walking down the street? Or even if you do that, are you not internally like frazzled and fuming and ready to box man out like this guy? It's one of them ones that, again, it's that inhumanity that seeps through that abuse. It's not normal abuse, right? It's not like calling someone a D-head or something like that. this is an abuse that hits your core, your essence as a human being. But anyway, let's chop it up in the chat. We got JLC in the building, and we got my man Diego If in the building. Let's go to JLC. Your general viewpoints. But how are you doing this evening, man? I missed the greetings. I didn't say hello. How's everyone doing?
No, it's good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're coming in good, man. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I had a yoga session today in Belsize Park. I've got a bit of holiday, so I'm picking up.
Nice. Was that outdoor yoga?
This time it was indoor, man, but
Okay.
it definitely stretched things that haven't been stretched in a while. Exactly.
Hey, that's good to hear, man. I always say yoga, Pilates. You know, a lot of brothers scoff at me when I say that. It's like, whoa, you're doing that all that soft stuff. But yeah, man, it really hit.
Yeah. I mean, it's sad, isn't it, man? Do actually, to answer your question, do I think it's too sensitive? I say yeah, because we get affected by it emotionally. We often respond emotionally, and we don't do anything about it. Anything meaningful. It's the same story. Treat me better, treat me better, treat me better, and the treatment's not improving. So, you know, I don't know how many times people have to be told that you're not wanted before the message finally seeps in. And that's the stage I've gotten to. You know, I've got a couple of good, conscious brothers that I hang around with, and they say, yeah, I'm used to being discriminated against. It's what I expect living around people who don't look like me. That's just how they feel. They've got this pragmatic view. So, you know, the thing that happened to the Nigerian guy in Italy, I mean, I watched the video, and I'm telling you, if anyone could watch that and go there and say, oh, I want to go to Italy and get me a woman, I think that your IQ's sub 70, because...
remember, this guy basically, he held an Italian woman's arm. He was telling her something, and he said, oh, beautiful. And then that's when the Italian man just went crazy on him.
Yeah, I saw the video, man. It was not a good viewing. And that guy getting called a black cannibal, what the hell? I mean, brother, why is he going to North India? Like, he's a black guy in India, and he goes to North India, you know, and he expected not to get at least a little bit of over abuse. He's lucky he didn't get a pull shot from a cricket bat or something. You know what I mean, I'm serious. Like, yeah.
Hey, so, just for context, man, we laugh, but we know it's not funny, obviously, because I know someone's going to come. It's not funny. Sometimes some of this deep stuff, you have to laugh it off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, even in the UK, a lot of these Indians, they don't like blacks very much, man, to be honest. They treat black people terribly. I've seen it. I've felt it. They see us as crap. And then only if they see you as worthwhile to get money from you, they know you're not like the rest of them. Are you from, you know, this part of Africa? Oh, you know, they try to justify why you're different. You don't fulfill their stereotypes. It's to be honest, they're probably more racist than English, honest, in this country at least.
For real. Okay, great opener. Great to have you as always, JLC, man. Remember, you're always welcome. Everyone, we hold no ill will if we disagree on other panels and stuff like that, so it's all good. Salute to Diego Efe. How are you doing, bro?
Yeah, I'm good, man. How are you doing?
Yeah, perfect, man. You're loud and crisp. You on that professional mic.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Hey, how are you doing? Everything good?
Yeah, not bad, man. Just been more edits, day in, day out, edits, ahead of the 15th. So yeah, that's pretty much been it, man. I'm living, eating, sleeping, shitting, you know, writing. So
can't complain. Hey, good to hear. Yeah. But what are your general thoughts or off of the back of JLC? What do you think about this guy in particular?
Okay, so this is in the context of traveling. This isn't just on a general level, no?
Or both. So, you know, feel free to absolutely go open with it anyway.
Okay, cool. So I think it depends on context, but I don't believe that black men are sensitive to or too sensitive. I think it's by the way, thanks AO, appreciate it. I think that it really depends on context. I think you almost have to be balanced. I think if you're hypersensitive, then it will make you feel, you'll kind of go insane, to be honest. But then if you are la 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 la, you're going to basically have a humbling experience that's going to remind you that no, there are people that still have a certain kind of disdain towards you. This is how I look at things, right? When it comes down to the whole racism thing from other groups, I look at it as almost like an inverted, toxic, backhanded compliment. It's ultimately down to economic, ethnicized competition, if that makes sense. If you look at white people, for example, the presence of black people, whether that's in the US or whether that's in the UK, going back, and obviously residuals are still present, in the present day. It's been about economic competition. That's fundamentally what it's been about. And the propaganda, which stops you from actually being able to see the bigger picture in that regard. So if we now relate that to the India case, many Indians know that they're not on the level of white people. Do you understand? Try as they may, some of them obviously had certain levels of mobility, and it is what it is, credit to them, but they know they're not on the level. So they'd rather be second place than be final place. Also, as well, if you look at old school colonial documents, diaries written by certain colonial administrators that worked in African colonies and also in India, they also made note that they believed that the Africans were less, if you will. So there are many Indians obviously aware of that. So that's cascaded down the generations.
Apparently,
So,
Gandhi also made certain remarks when he was in South Africa, right, or somewhere in the South.
Yeah. He didn't think much about black people. Of course, when it came down to fraternizing with some of these independents, the African independence leaders like Kwame Nkrumah and so on and so forth, and Marcus Garvey, who I believe that he had an encounter with. He obviously wasn't disrespectful to them. I think maybe he saw them on par, but on a broader level, he saw black people as being inferior. And for me, I look at that as more like a self-esteem kind of situation. That's kind of how I see it, So the best way to kind of deal with their own internalized inadequacy is to displace that onto black people. And by seeing any black people squirm, it kind of makes them feel better about themselves. It doesn't change the fact, though, that they're seen as sort of at best second class as compared to white people of any shade. Now, when it comes down to the Italian man, the man in Italy that got killed as well, I saw part of the video, but they kind of X'd out part of it because apparently he had a walking stick, so he was kind of partially disabled.
Yeah.
And apparently it was the walking stick that was used to beat him to death. So the reality is this: black life is not necessarily valued in Italy. Even in the case of you can be excellent, you can play football for them, as Mario Balotelli can probably attest to, and Stefano Okaka.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, because they're Italian, like Africans. So the reality is they don't value life there. This is what I find interesting. If you're an expat, so like the likes of what's this guy's name? Tomori, that moved from Chelsea to AC Milan. Because of obviously he's kind of at a class level and he's not Italian, he has a different kind of experience. Do you understand? But if we're looking at it on a basic level, say for example, middle class and below, you're gonna get that kind of treatment where they will displace their frustrations onto you. And from what I do know, though, apparently in Napoli, there's a Nigerian mafia that had like effectively a shootout with the Italian mafia there, and apparently they won. So Nigerians that are into illicit activity in Napoli, I think even part of Palermo, if I'm not mistaken, they get left to it. There's a certain level of respect that it's almost like begrudging respect that they have. Just say one last thing before I pass it on to Mr. Uganda or whoever wants to speak.
Yeah.
But bringing it back to racism here, right? To give you some context, I take the view that you don't need to have race limit you from perhaps pursuing, basically being the best version of yourself. But if I'm to be honest, it would be a lie to say that it hasn't been a thing. I remember I got attacked when I was 13. There was an older man, pussy off to be honest, because really if it had been square on, it would have been a rap. But he now was calling me, I think I was coming off the bus, I was coming back from school. He pushed me down the stairs and he's like, yeah, nigga. And I said to the guy, I said, listen, like back off, because the guy weren't going to leave me alone. So I stood up for myself. And then as I carried on walking, because he looked scared when I basically squared up to him. Like I said, I was near 6 foot at that point. And then next thing I know, he went, punched me from behind and whacked my ear. I was wearing an earring, so it kind of gave me a tear. Before I could basically respond, there was like stormtroopers. You understand?
Mm.
Because this was in Hammersmith Broadway, so it was like a bus station, and the security guards stopped me from actually responding, and said to me to press charges. Now, I'll try to speed up the story, but essentially my best friend was with me, right, at the time. And his mum, so he was white, his brother was mixed race. She didn't get on with the brother because apparently his dad hurt her. So after that, she now started to have almost like an ambivalent relationship with black people. So she had cancer at the time. And I think one of her dying wishes was that he should not testify. So rather than the guy getting racially aggravated, I think was it GBH or ABH, I forget which charge it was, he got common assault. You understand? So, and the worst of it was the two of them thrown going to court. They gave me £50 compensation. That was less than what I was getting from, like, you know, basically it was less than what I spent on travel expenses and less than what I would have got from basically the little kind of school runs that I was doing, like selling stuff.
Yeah. Damn.
So that's one thing. And then in the workplace, for example, I've also had my own kind of race experiences why I had to basically kind of find a way to adapt. You understand where?
Okay, perfect. Diego, great input. We're going to come back to the work part, and we're going to come back to the UK in general. Okay. But great insight, man. These are the type of stories we need to hear, man, because it's deep out here. But Mr. Uganda, man, how you doing this evening? Good to have you on.
Thank you for brilliant. Because your chat was giving me like a migraine, and I was just like, yeah, because some of the responses were just giving me the uppity Negro archetype, where you have to look this type of way to get this type of response, and I get that. I talk about that a lot myself, but when it's racial bias, I have a particular take. But anyway, that's besides the point. Now, there was a word that Diego used that I like, and it was called fundamentally or fundamental. And I'm going to lead what I'm going to say with that. So, fundamentally, as people, we have perception and we have senses. So, if we weren't sensitive to light, our eyes wouldn't be able to perceive the world. If we were not sensitive to sound, we wouldn't be able to hear this conversation. If our mouths didn't have a level of sensitivity, we wouldn't be able to taste food. If we didn't have nerve receptors in our fingers and stuff, we wouldn't be able to, touch things and feel how solid it is and stuff like that. So I hope you get the gist of where I'm going.
Yeah.
Having a sensitivity intrinsically is not bad. I think the word sensitive is loaded, and with the connotations that sensitive has, especially amongst Black people in the manosphere or the discussion type of spaces, is that sensitivity means that you don't have any control over your actions. However, I just looked up the definition of sensitive, and it means to what's the word? Respond or detect slight changes, influences, or signals. And so I actually don't think that it's a bad thing that people be sensitive to racial biases, because it would lead you, if you have a good response, it would lead you to evade a situation which might be very hazardous. And to be honest, if you were impervious or insensitive to racism, that would be akin to someone walking into a dynamic where they're not liked, they're perceived as being subhuman, yet they would support the businesses that despise them. Whereas I think a person with sensitivity might appreciate that perhaps I don't need to walk into the store and patronize the business. It's about perception. And I think when we tell people not to, I think when there's like this aversion to the word sensitive, we're sort of telling people to be impervious to things when we shouldn't be impervious to racism. I would actually like to be sensitive to it so that I can know when I'm walking into a racist environment, so I can respond. And I think this is the key delineation that needs to be made, is that there is a difference between responding versus reacting. And I think a lot of what we see in social media is that there's a lot of people who react to racism and they spaz out and they make an even more dangerous environment. Whereas I feel a response takes into consideration the cost and benefit analysis, and you can decide where to go from there. Now, I'm going to conclude this in the next 30 seconds. Had I been the individual in the video, I don't think I would have even responded. I wouldn't have even gone back and forth with the man and called him a name, because you are in a different country, and you don't have a sort of I mean, maybe he could have an awareness, but I don't think he has an appreciation for how a mob mentality could take place, and he could have really gotten jumped out there. I would have just walked out and gone about my business, you know.
That's another thing. That's what I thought initially, man. Like, you don't retaliate like that in a foreign country when you're by yourself with a camera, man. I mean, you know what I mean? That's dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. He should have just, in my opinion, like a lot of people like yourself did say, he would have just walked away and gone about his business. Like I think Jessica X did say that India is known for being racist, so he can't have known that he should have at least expected there was a likelihood of encountering this behavior. Does going back and forth with someone in the store really amount to a good response? I just think it was a wasted effort. At the end of the day, it didn't work to censure the man. It didn't work to put him behind bars. It was pretty much a fruitless effort, if I'm being honest. So therefore, it was a wasted action. But that's pretty much it.
Yeah, great points, Mr. Uganda, as always, man. Always clinical with what you need to say, man. Appreciate you. We got Thomas Demahen in the building. How you doing, bro?
I'm good. I'm a bit late.
Hey, I'm late too, man. So it's all good, man. I'm good, thanks. How you doing?
I'm good. Just finishing up some work. Well, it's good to be here again.
Good to hear. So what do you think, generally speaking? Are we too sensitive when it comes to racism? And any thoughts on the guy in India, Black Man the Traveler, or the guy being beat to death in Italy?
In general, I think, black men are pretty sensitive to racism. Like, I'm not gonna lie, man. Some black men, they have a defeated mentality. So, some guy was racist to me. Some guy said the N-word. Okay, are you going to just scream and shout? Like, they expect to obtain sympathy. Like, come on, man. Come on. Like, you're just being too sensitive. Like, yes, racism happens. Okay. And I have one question for those black men who want to scream and shout. Are you going to let racism defy you? Are you going to let racism defeat you? Stop you from reaching your full potential? Are you? No. So where there's a will, there's a way. Rise above it and keep moving forward. Like, they want to gain sympathy. So, some guy was racist to me, and he should get cancelled. I'm like, nah, bro, you're just being a child. Like,
hi.
1 sec, Don.
Hello.
Yeah, still you, Thomas.
Like, you're just being too sensitive. Like, you're a grown adult. Rise above the obstacles. Like, like racism happens. So what?
Okay, I wanna kind of shift perspective. With what Captain Tolson said, salute to you, bro. He says the UK isn't as racist as people say. And we all know you as the resident passport bro, which, I appreciate. I support to some extent the idea of black men traveling, and a YouTuber I'm referencing as well. That's why I like his channel. So this is a general question now that we're going to roll into with everyone in the panel, starting with you, Thomas, and then we'll move on to the newcomers in the chat. Like, is the UK racist in your opinion then?
Are you talking to me, bro?
Yeah, to you, Thomas. Would you say the UK is racist? Because you have, this idea of, I guess, emigrating in the future.
Well, yeah, it is racist. But, for example, bro, last year, when it came to the Euro World Cup, what did we see? When those 3 black boys
Mr. Penny to shoot out. What did we see online? Racism.
Oh,
You know.
okay. But
So
okay. I
one.
mean, okay. Great point. Let's quickly move on to Ephraim Mackworth, man, in the building. You come up. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing fine, Falcon. Hi, everyone in the chat. Hello. Good evening. Good evening.
What are your general thoughts? And is the UK racist?
Well, my general thoughts of this stream is that in the UK, I would say there is racism there, but it's mostly subtle. It's mostly coverted. Most of times, it's either an isolated incident or just under an organization or institution, which is mostly there. And also in terms of how, as Black people, are we sensitive to racism? I would say to the degree we are, but at the same time too, we need to acknowledge that once we're different, you're always going to be treated different. So that's what I would see it as. And
in the context of being in the UK as a citizen, how are we different?
Well, let's be honest. Let's be honest. Throughout the years, I would say UK tries to not be the first ones who ever started racism, because if we look at it in history-wise, they're the first country which, if anything, made I don't want to bring it into slavery, but made slavery more open to the world. Even though other European countries started it, it was Britain who made it more open to the world than anywhere else. And with that in place, it has always created this kind of I would say a different barrier, or if anything, a different environment for Black people who were in the UK. And this is like 100 years ago in terms of how it all began. Because if anything, Black people were in the UK, but we weren't established until after World War II. After World War II is when Black people were established, especially those who were from the Caribbean, especially.
And they say World War II triggered the independence movement in African countries, Caribbean countries, Asian countries.
Yeah, it did. It did trigger that kind of independence movement in terms of how, those countries were being mistreated by the British. Because they because with my background from Ghana, they were given promises that if you do this war for us, this is what you get. But what we get is not what we had. And that's what kind of led to the whole independent movement with Kwame Nkrumah starting it off. And since then, it all happened with us as Black people coming to the UK and having our lives here.
Right. Okay. Great points, brother Ephraim, as always, man. Let me quickly salute Jessica X, man, for the 449 super chat sponsoring the show. We all know Jessica X, man. I appreciate you, Jess X. When are you streaming, man? Haven't heard of you in a while. But I hope you're doing good. Salute to everyone liking the video, commenting your thoughts. Appreciate everyone supporting the stream. And let's go to Don Osman. He's been on the street. He's been on the panel before. What are your general thoughts? And do you believe the UK is racist? And then we'll just roll it into a larger discussion.
Right. Okay. I think the UK has racism, but I don't think it's a racist country. Every country has racism and all that. But I think that I always felt that people, when they talk about the UK and all that, they over exaggerate about the levels of racism in the UK. That's the one thing I've noticed. And for some reason, racism, it's a very serious topic, particularly in the West. in which people are talking about it a lot more, particularly in the last 2 years during the George Floyd situation and all that. But I always felt that there are people out there that that over exaggerate and all that. And if you over exaggerate it, the harmful effect could be that people won't be taking it seriously with regards to tackling racism and all that. Racism is a a serious issue that needs to be seriously tackled. But I think if you have people over exaggerating all that, I think it's like someone making a false statement that he's a victim of a hate crime and all that based on his race and all that. That's almost equivalent to it to some extent, even though it might be kind of extreme and all that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. There's been, like, I think with the police, one of the police organizations, institutional racism and some racism and related to names, I guess, ethnic sounding names, quote unquote. But I always find it hard as a general everyday citizen to say the UK is racist. I mean, I can't say that with a whole heart, because when you call something or someone racist, you have to really lean into it. It has to be 100% true, because it's such a branding that has so many connotations. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think I think early on there was the example in regards to last summer, England beats Italy, I think Euro final, or was it the World Cup final?
The Euros, yeah.
Yeah, Euro finals. It was a small amount of people that were online, hurling abuses towards those 3 players. And the way those individuals were named and shamed in a matter of days or less than 24 hours. You got one guy up in Manchester who was an estate agent, and he was properly done. I remember I was on Twitter, and he was he probably got exposed and all that, and they even leaked out his troll accounts and all that.
Yeah, great points, Don Osmer. Yeah. And I want to bring this question to the wider panel, and I want to push back on that as well, because because we all know when England fail in football, firstly we look for the scapegoat. I believe one time it was David Beckham when he he kicked someone and got a red card, or it was even Gareth Southgate missed a few penalties or something. I don't remember everything, or even I remember David Seaman, right? He let in a stupid free kick that should have been saved. And it seems like England always looks for the scapegoat. So is this just the same case as looking for a scapegoat, and the scapegoats just happen to be 3 black guys who did, fair enough, miss penalties in a row, right? So to the general audience who hasn't had a say on it, is the UK racist? Anyone?
Bro, I kind of found it very strange. But I knew what was going to happen when those 3 black guys were chosen for the penalty shootout. When that happened, I told my mates, watch, they're gonna miss, and you know what's gonna happen after they miss. Like I felt sorry for them, but I don't feel sorry for them, because they should have known that this is the penalty shootout.
But who makes the decision to line up those penalty shooters? Is it the manager?
Isn't ultimately the manager who gets the final say, who goes onto the pitch? So the manager should have taken full accountability. Why did you allow those 3 black boys to do the penalty shootout? You knew what was going to happen.
You laughed?
It's me. Yeah.
Brother. But I'm laughing as well, bro. He knew what was going to happen. He knew it. I told my mates, he did this deliberately. He did that deliberately. Watch. They're gonna miss.
Okay, JLC, why did JLC laugh? I'm curious.
Because he agreed with me, He agreed.
I kind of do agree when I just think those black guys like Raheem Sterling, who's probably the most sensible black guy in England, maybe in the Premier League, but definitely in the national team. My man wasn't taking no penalty. He should have been taking it. He knew he didn't want that hassle. He knew what would happen. I guarantee you, he did the analysis. He said, this ain't worth the risk. My man didn't take the penalty. I guarantee you. And Raheem, he's someone who, he doesn't seem to cry about racism that much. My man's acclimatized. He's probably going to move to Jamaica the moment he retires. He's got his black wife. He's done. You know what I mean? So,
the thing is,
I'm sure he had a few pogs, right?
Raheem Sterling, he's married to a black woman and he has a black baby. He's one of the few Premier League footballers I know that actually has a black wife.
Yeah, man, I need to put him in one of my thumbnails then, man. He's an example.
But brother, you need, like, come on, man. If I was one of those footballers, I'd be like, no, I'm not doing this because I know what's gonna happen if I miss. Like the whole, bruv, you wouldn't believe how many white people were raging. They're like, oh, that you see the white people, yeah, they only like you when they're winning, but when you're losing, that's when they go back to their basic form. You know, they go back to their primal instincts. When a black person fails, where do they go? They look at your skin color and say, "Oh, you're N-word."
You could see that with Joshua and Fury. I could see instantly that the British public, obviously Joshua said that thing during the riots, but they're always going to prefer Fury over Joshua because he's closer to who they are. And that's the harsh truth, and we need to realize that racism is in-group preference.
And is that a bad thing though? In-group preference?
No, it is for us because we don't practice it.
It's natural anyway.
No, you see, exactly, bro. When AJ wins, I win because I'm a Nigerian. He's a Nigerian. You know, you, bro. Come on, brother Vulcan. When AJ wins, you feel joy because another Nigerian brother's winning, right?
Can I be perfectly honest with you, bro?
What?
I don't feel a damn thing. That might sound strange, but I don't feel a damn thing when I don't really have that type of connection, man. I don't. And this is why I start to believe that those who are quote unquote racist, it must be like low IQ. And I'm talking about the racism, the everyday on the street racism, the racial slurs, the go back to Nicaragua type racism. It's like, I just don't have those alignments.
Falcon. You asked the question as to if we think the UK is racist, right? I think I might have said this on a previous stream, but I genuinely think it's more class-based, right? Just to reiterate part of what I said, your average person that's racist is typically speaking working class or maybe just about middle class, but their middle class status is kind of tenuous, right? So they become hypersensitive if they see a black person, you know, maybe a colleague of theirs who, you know, seems like he or she, especially if it's a man, is on the ball and, you know, about that life. Do you understand? So I definitely think it's class based. It's the same way if you look at the likes of like your few black landowners, like the black farmer. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with him.
I remember him. Is that the guy that had that show? He did the show.
Yeah, he had that show and he mentored like the young kids. He's now part of the landed gentry. Do you understand? So he's respected. I know fine he's got a white wife, but you know, he's respected nevertheless. And you know, no one can say anything to him. Like I said, the guy owns serious land, right? All the other black landowners that I know of who are not as you know, famous, so to speak, or as well known. Likewise, same thing with them. Do you understand? In some cases, they even are beneficiaries of those land subsidies. Do you understand? So, you know, there's levels to it. Remember, I told you about the Nigerian guy whose dad was, I don't know, his dad was a senior person. I forget what he does. I don't know if he's a diplomat or was a diplomat, but he's very wealthy anyway, right? And police tried to basically do that whole over-policing thing. And a couple of calls were made, and the police officers that processed him were going to lose their jobs unless they apologized. You understand? And so I think it's, like I said, I think it's class-based, and every real instance of racism that I've had, especially that which has been more explicit and, you know, beyond doubt, has been, you know, your working class or lower class. You get my point. Lower down the social pecking order, you know?
Right.
So that would be my own interpretation of it being more class than race, because most people are not wealthy, are they? Most people are like hovering at that maybe tenuous middle class position, working class, lower class. You know, you get my point.
Yeah, good points. Let me quickly shout out Michael Meachrock the fourth for the always consistent every stream 199 super sticker, man. I appreciate you, bro. White American brother on the street, in the stream, showing us love. So salute to you, Michael. So can we say that class is linked to intelligence then, in a general sense?
What's the measure of intelligence? This is the thing, because intelligence, typically speaking, is measured by one's subject depth, right? Their depth of knowledge,
true.
and the ability to apply it. Yeah, sometimes that gets conflated with dexterity. This is why I think on the previous stream I said that IQ cannot possibly be an absolute measure of intelligence, even if you delimit it to like the Western context, because it only really tests your mental speed on a fundamental level. It does not test your depth of knowledge. People who are able to actually take on a lot of knowledge, maybe at your more advanced degree stage, right? Analyze different sources and put together, a well-evaluated, compelling argument. That for me is intelligence, because they're not regurgitating anything. They have to read things, they have to ruminate on it, they have to, really think about it, remember it, and then apply it. So then that's my take on it. And just one last thing in respect of that. If that's now applied to, like, for example, I think there was a issue that came up the other day about African countries and what have you, right? The measurement of intelligence is relative, because if you find yourself in a country whereby, when it comes to, ultimately speaking, the easiest way to ensure your future and that of your family and any of your kinsmen is to steal money, right? One can say it's actually intelligent based on that, what you can call a parochial kind of level. Does that make sense? It's relative. Someone who has the expectation of that country literally functioning in the way that, like in England or this country or whatever country will function, then they might say, for example, that it's not intelligent. So it's really down to perspective. You understand? But anyway, let someone else speak.
Great points, bro.
One question, bro. I have one question. Do you think? Do you remember that footballer who was white, but he's half Nigerian?
The Nigerian national team player.
Yeah,
I think he's talking about Ross Barkley.
Ross Barkley, yeah, I remember.
Yeah, that's the guy. Do you think, bro? This is a question to people who are biracial in the live chat. I mean, have you experienced racism? Which is most likely going to be yes, but do you, brother Alkan and the others, do you think mixed race people have it easier because they have a closer proximity to whiteness?
Oh, you know what? That's a good point, because I've often wanted to state, we've got a lot of, because of the quote unquote legacy of the one drop rule. Obviously mixed race is seen as black, and we've got a lot of black guys traveling and giving it as a black experience, and I believe that in Europe, at least, the racism is very much colorist. It's very much like, especially in a country like Italy, with that north-south divide, it's like, it's like a double whammy. You're dark and you're also foreign. So it's like, yeah, I believe some experiences based on your skin tone in some areas is going to be different. And I think, if this guy who I'm referencing, Black Man the Traveler, was mixed race looking, light skin looking, he probably, in India, he probably would not have received that.
This is a question I have to, I know she's listening. Jessica X. Have you been treated better than your Nigerian sisters, Jessica? Do you mind if you answer that question for me? Were you better preferred?
Well, she's not on the panel, bro. If she's on the panel, then we can, she can.
Okay.
I can.
But she
said,
okay.
She says I can be honest and say I've never faced racism.
Oh, there you go. That answers my question.
Bro, JLC, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to give you, I've had a couple of instances. I think it was last year. I was working in this Buckinghamshire, this big Oxford institution with big time geeks, and there were a couple who were very racist. openly. So I'll give you an example. We're in a group, 10 of us, Oxbridge, educate a lot of them. They go, so this patient, he's from Nigeria, yes, okay. So was it rural or city? And she goes, well, what I'm trying to say, was it straw or tin roofs? And they all burst out laughing. I was like, hold on, that's a bit of a crazy thing to say. You know what I mean? And then there was another time they looked at an entry and the man's name was Ghanaian surname, and they said, oh, you can't expect anything good from someone with a surname like that. And I was like, what the hell is going on? So this whole thing, trust me, behind closed doors, these educated Oxbridge type, don't get it twisted. It is fundamental to European culture that they see us as intellectually inferior across the board. They may not say it to your face, but they're going to do it covertly. So let's not pretend like, Cletus and Jake from Stockport are the only ones doing this racism stuff. Behind closed doors, the ones who really can make a difference to you, trust me, there are a lot of them. A lot of them subscribe to the hierarchy of white at the top, number 2 Chinese, number 3 Indian, number 4 mixed with black, number 5 us. That's the hierarchy, intellectually and monetarily.
So I wanted to jump in here.
That's very true. That's very true.
But throughout history, it's always been like that.
One sec, guys. Let's let Mr. Uganda come in. He came in first. One sec.
Thank you. So when it was being discussed as far as racism being more prevalent amongst or being projected more by people from a lower class standing, I did agree that was true. But I think the nuance here is that we're talking more about the expressions of racism. And I think the bolder and more flagrant uses of racism are projected more by people from other racial groups of a lower social standing. I can hypothesize as to why that is, and it's probably because, it's more ignorance. They have less wealth to protect, and so a lot of them don't really regard projecting racism as, a higher risk than people of a middle class or higher class standing. I imagine that for people who are up on the ladder, they might have to be more subtle to protect their equity and to protect what they've been handed down as well as what they're building, which might explain why JLC was talking about educators and behind closed doors, they are more likely to use racist expressions, but they wouldn't use it like people we see on the street because they have more to protect and they've probably been coached more on how to apply racism. And I think that again comes down to a matter of education because I guess those who are more ignorant, they don't know how to apply racism in a very effective and subtle way, as horrible as that sounds. But those who have education, those who are like of middle class and upper class standing, they can exert their racism even within the institutions of which they operate, which is why we talk about microaggressions in the workplace. People who tend to operate with microaggressions at the workplace, tend to be people who are educated on how to apply racism as a form of power without having to risk their equity, without having to risk their security, which is their job. Yeah.
Hey, that's a great point. That's a great point, bro.
Can I chip in if it's okay? I know Jessica
one
spoke
sec, bro. I
about
think Ephraim wanted to come in, and I just quickly wanted to bring on Tammy Busari and carry on. But Ephraim, you wanted to jump in after Mr. Uganda?
To what Mr. Uganda and Thomas is saying in regards of racism in amongst, I would say, so amongst education and so on, social environments, I always view racism more of a hierarchy system of where it starts from the top. So it starts from the elites, those in those top elites, which are rich and some white, they usually find ways to give out like propaganda to their own race to give this kind of I would say division or separation of those who are not of their own race, so that they can give them the kind of, again, the power of what we all know, supremacy, to know that they are the ones who dictate and so on. Show them they're the ones who have the power and knowledge and everything else in between.
But
With that in place.
That sounds like simple in-group preference to me, which, you know, when we talk about it on the black side, we idealize fiction like Wakanda and, you know, that whole, you know, it's like if it was reversed, and I'm going to bring a point later on in regards to the Euro 2022 female team for England. When it's opposed, it's like from the language, we will operate in the same way if we had the opportunity. You know, if a black guy was in the white British point of view or you know, position, he would probably be racist too.
Actually, bro, there is a TV show that actually discusses that. It's called Noughts and Crosses. It's
Okay, one sec, bro. Hold that. Let me quickly jump into Carry On. He's a new one on the chat. What's your general thoughts, bro? Carry On.
I believe that everyone's racist. And racism is natural, is ingrained into humans for many reasons. But mainly it's for protection. I wouldn't trust anyone if they're outsiders. And the more you don't look like me, the more I know you're an outsider than anyone else. That's natural. And the reason why is because you want to protect resources and you should make sure your children are generally safe, and you want your children to be productive in life after you pass away, because they're technically your future. So if there's unknown or other people with you, you generally don't want them to be around you that much, or you want them to be to a lesser degree, and it's hard to generally fight that. If, let's say, if black people were in the most predominant space in the world right now, we would generally be acting the same. The rich wouldn't openly act racist because they gain no benefit from it, because acting openly racist makes sure that you can't take the resources from the people that generally you don't like or you don't see them on the same level. So I'm a black supremacist and I live in a world where black people are supreme. I want the money and resources from white people and Asian people, so I'm not going to be openly racist. I don't like them. I might not promote them to the top of my board, and I will accept them to come in to a certain degree and use their intelligence, resources, and power to benefit me and my family. Like, okay, yeah, I trust you to a certain degree, but I don't trust all of you, so I'm going to allow the small minority of you that are extremely skilled to come up here and be with my people, but I won't allow all of you guys because it's not beneficial. There are people like that.
You're a British citizen, right?
Yeah.
How does one be a black supremacist in a country like Britain where we're under 4% in terms of demographics? How is that possible?
Oh, I wasn't saying.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said.
Oh, no,
did you not say you're?
No. I said if there was a world where black people were the predominant group.
Yes. Oh, my bad. That's true.
But I'm going to be honest, there are groups of people that are more, people could class as racist in a certain way because they're more in-group focused and they are have more, negative thoughts of people that are outside their groups.
Yeah, they're called Indians.
Well, yeah. Well, you can say that. You can say technically they're racist to everyone because they generally want their people to be promoted more than anyone else. And it doesn't matter who they are. And that's natural, but when it gets dangerous is when you are personally going out and sabotaging or physically harming people. That's the stuff that the lower rank do because they feel personally threatened in a certain way. They feel like their resources are taken away because they're at a lower class. They don't have that much to have anyway. So it's like, I'm starving and there's new threats and new competition coming in. I'm going to be more aggressive and active against them.
Great points, bro. Great points, brother. Carry on. Let me quickly go to Temi Busari, another new member to the panel. How are you doing?
Hey, good evening. I'm fine. How are you?
Good. Thanks. What are your general points or point of view?
I will start off generally. If you've the first question, and you said, is the UK racist? In general, I wouldn't say the UK is racist, but I will ask questions. Their institutions were racist. If I was to ask a question, what's the most popular newspaper in England?
The Sun.
Is it
Daily Mail?
Okay, good. Yeah. Would we say are those papers racist?
Well,
Daily Mail
the
commented.
Daily Mail, Well, Daily Mail has been known for saying a lot. All right.
Especially the Independent.
Exactly. I will also ask if we were to tell what the most popular radio stations, the most listened to anchors, their views generally are they racist views, or they generally stick up for anything that's racism, if you get what I'm saying. So I think my own ways, I believe the country is not racist, but I just believe there's someone who holds so much power, and when they speak or when they put out media, when they put out about like on the newspapers or on the radios, they're so racist, and a lot of people are listening to them, and I believe a lot of people form their opinions from this because we can see with it. Remember when Raheem Sterling came up with those two articles about a white Manchester City player and a black Manchester City player, and the way the Daily Mail framed the two the two pieces. One was buying a mom, is asked for his mom, he's worked hard, and one splashes. That like he didn't deserve it. So these are the little things. And also remember the CV experiment that was carried out. Same qualifications of the CV, but one of the name were ethnic names and the other was English names. These are facts that was carried out. So, in as much as you don't want to try it, to say that the country is not racist, there's some things that just point towards that. And then if I was to share my personal experience, my son is 14 years old. He was racially abused when he was 7, being told to go back to a country he's never been before. So, if you ask him if is the country racist, he actually believes it because his opinion has been formed by what happened to him when he was 7. So, and David Oyelowo said something. We black people do not create racism, if you get what I'm saying. So, definitely. So you see, there are too many things. So
when he says that, what exactly does he mean? Black people didn't create racism, because I think Nigeria has been used as a great example in many of my streams.
Yeah.
And one point is that it's so divided ethnically. And sure, we won't, racially, if we use the old archaic terms, we're all quote unquote Africoid.
Exactly.
But that tribal aspect is still based on culture and appearances, no?
Yeah, you're 100% right. And then if we bring it back here to England, what's that phrase? Let's be on a ginger. We all don't, we all don't like people who are different from us. That's just who we are. But I think the reason why racism is a bit different, it's the main things that have been built on the back of racism. America, built with the blood of the native Indians and on the back of blacks. England, there was a friend of mine who did a Union Jack flag, and what he did was he put every single country from the Caribbean that England had benefited from to form his own Union Jack. So if we keep on digging on history, racism, the way racism is a bit different from tribalism. Probably in Nigeria is no one has built riches on empires on the backs of every tribe. If you guys, they might be fighting against each other, but no one's actually proper built empires, by moving people from point A to point B against their will. So that's the reason why racism is a bit different.
Okay, bro. I hear you, bro. Great points, bro. Great points. 1 second, bro. I just want to quickly bring in Jessica X because she's been waiting for a while, and then we'll go back to brother Diego. But I just want to salute to Mr. Uganda for the £10 super chat, man. I appreciate the consistent support. Salute to Mr. Uganda. You guys better check out his channel. He's got some great insight on his channel, so check it out. I'm gonna push his channel more as well. I appreciate Mr. Uganda, always balanced, always composed. So salute to you, bro. I appreciate that. Let's quickly go to Jessica X, and then we're gonna go to brother Diego. Jessica X, how you doing?
Good. I didn't have too much to say. I just came up to answer Thomas's question. I haven't had anyone say anything racist to me.
In your whole life?
I haven't had anyone say anything racist. I said before, the most funny behavior that I've had, it's come from other black people. If I'm being for real, it has.
Jessica, would you say it is because of colorism? Because you're mixed race, you may be preferred more because you have a closer proximity to whiteness?
Listen. Look, I'm sorry, man. I'm gonna be a coon tonight because the coon has to come out at some point. But I co-sign, and you see me. Look, I'm a dark-skinned black guy, And I've lived in London plus 30 years. The main racism that has been concurrent actually has been from black people, but namely for me, it's going to be different for everyone. But for me, it's been mixed race people, because it's like mixed race people tend to feel like they have, they have the right to, it's not racism.
Bro,
And call me any, like back in the day, man. It's coming from mixed race people. I remember living in Bermondsey, man. There was this caretaker in Bermondsey. He was mixed race. He was leading all the little white kids to cause harm, to throw bottles out our door. My Nigerian cousins who came to stay over us get beat up. Like, that's the truth, man, from my reality, and I can't hold back the truth from my perspective, point of view.
Yeah, that's I have to go just off my experiences, right? So I've spoken about it on your show before, that the little microaggressions that I have faced, like being followed around a shop, a store, has come from the black security guards. The white ones don't follow me. It's the black ones. When I have people who want to have some sort of preconceived notion about me, that I'm going to be stuck up, I'm going to be like a B word, I'm going to think I'm too nice, that comes from black people. I'll have people tell me like, oh my gosh, Jessica, you're actually pretty cool. I thought you were going to be like stuck up. I thought you were going to be this, that, the other, but you're actually pretty okay. So those like little microaggressions or those stereotypes, I get more from black people than I do from white people. Now, if we go to like on the white side, I'd say more what I get on that side is more like a fetishization, if that's what you want to call it. It will be like you'll be out and a guy would be like, oh, I've never been with a woman like you before, that sort of thing, right? Like, oh damn, like I had someone tell me not too long ago, he says, I want to mix my white chocolate with your caramel, and I was like, no, for real. And he was like, what, like a white boy can't like himself a mixed girl? And I was just like, I just kept walking. I didn't really say anything. But you'll get comments like that, right? So they'll refer to your skin color, but not necessarily in a negative way. But there are things like that happens.
Right.
Or you see white people that, yeah.
One sec, brother Thomas. We're gonna go to Diego. Diego's been waiting for a bit, but great. I appreciate your input, Jessica X, and your super chat. I appreciate the support.
Sure.
Brother Diego.
Yeah, there was some things that I was gonna say some time ago that I forgot, but one thing I do remember, I think, was it Temi that said no empire has been built off the back of.
Yeah, it was.
That's not quite true. I've got numerous examples of that. The one which many Nigerians in particular like shoot off the mouth about is the Oyo Empire. Now, I won't go into too much of a history lesson, but one of the key advantages they had was the cavalry. That part was not where the forest zone is. Once you take your horses into the forest zone, then
the flies won't.
Yeah, exactly. There's various tropical maladies that will kill off your horses. So that was one of the ways they came up. The other way was, in addition to being like controlling the market of commodities that was coming, to and fro, right? Natron, cocoa, any commodities you can think of. Not only was that was part of what they came up on, but the key thing was slaves. You understand? At the time, the Oyo Empire did not include what we now know as Ondo and Ekiti State. It wasn't part of it, right? So they raided those places for captives to take to the New World. To a certain extent, they also took what would we now know today as Ijebu and Egba people. But they it was like a shootout between them and the old Dahomey Empire. Them two, one was overpowered, the other one was paying paying tribute to the other one.
I guess what Temi was trying to say was that, and I don't mean to cut you off, I think he's trying to say that, okay, because it's quote unquote black on black, it's not like we're particularly targeting other groups, other racial groups to use as slaves or to domineer over and to basically have our own little black supremacy type situation.
I get that, but there was no black consciousness at the time. So
exactly.
So what it is that, because this is my point, the black consciousness as we know it today, I'm not talking about back in the day, the Greeks that came to Egypt saw dark-skinned people and called them burnt face. I ain't talking about that. Most people got their understanding of blackness by watching media, popular culture, which kind of seeped into like the mainstream, so on and so forth. That's an American idea. What I'm trying to say is this, yeah, when it comes down to like these different kingdoms and stuff that came up off the back of slavery, why am I getting feedback?
Yeah, I've just muted Carry On. Carry On, if you can turn off the YouTube in the background, please, because we can hear it.
Yeah. So at the time, even for example, my Igbo side, right? I had a load of family that ended up in the New World. Now we're called the Inri people. We're from like further north. The people from further south, they were called the Arrows, and they used to have subconscious called the Abam and the Effet. Before groups got pushed together under colonialism, right? They didn't see themselves as the same ethnic group. Do you understand? So they would happily trade. They didn't have this concept of, oh, my black brother. Do you get my point? So what I'm trying to say is that if you take that out of the equation and you look at so-called black kingdoms, you've got examples in the old Congo kingdom. You have examples in Oyo. You have, I guess it's kind of decentralized, but you have the Arrow Confederacy to an extent. You have, what's this other one called? Kafarawara. You have the Hausa kingdoms. They all thrive. And of course, how could they? Kanem Bornu. These are various states. I won't go, I'll limit it at that, but these are how many examples I've given? 6 or 7?
I believe Mali Empire as well, because you know, they had the Tuaregs and the, you know, they had every African empire had like a multi-ethnic disposition.
Exactly.
It can't be helped because of it's Africa, it's the, you know.
So that's the closest example. So a lot of the empires that people take pride in, basically, you know, they don't realize that a lot of them benefit. I ain't talking about internal slavery, you know, when it comes down to, you know, basically grinding out like the palm oil in order to basically, I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about actual, you know, obviously put it like this is not me kind of talking up for ADOS or anything like that, because the majority of people were not involved in the ecosystem, knew nothing about it. It was specialist contractors with all of the chains, and they had a proper mapped out ecosystem and certain kind of cartography. They had more of an awareness of the geography. So they had that advantage, and not everybody did, because it would have been chaotic. So anyway, I just thought that I'd share that because it's a common, you know, misconception, you know. And the reality is, I don't think it's something which should be buried. It's just a part of the history, man. Do you understand? It is what it is.
For real. Excellent points, man. Was that JLC? It was that Carry On.
Yeah. When are we going to practice? Sorry.
Say that again.
Right, bro. Can you hear? Can I quickly add on to what Jessica said, please?
Sure.
All right, Jessica. There was one in terms of like mixed race people, Jessica. There was one YouTube or TikToker called SH Tiki Toki. Do you know that guy? SH Tiki Toki. Okay, it's just he's a YouTuber. Well, he's a TikToker, mixed race. And if you see him, if you type his name on YouTube, he's a typical UK mixed race boy, who's more white than black. He made a viral video where he said one particular black girl he dated looked white, and he then berated all black women across the UK, saying, "Oh, they're so clapped, they're so butters. You know, I would never date a clapped black girl from London." How do you feel about that? What are your thoughts on? What are your thoughts? But what are your thoughts? Because this is a mixed race guy saying all black women are ugly. Well, what's your thoughts on that?
I don't have much thoughts on that.
Someone's spraying links in the background or something. There's some little.
It better be Links Africa. To be honest, Thomas, I don't have many thoughts on that. Here's the thing for me: if somebody doesn't like me and they come out and say that they'd never want to date me, okay, cool. At least you kind of know where that person stands. I'm not offended. I'd rather, because I was browsing like a comment section, and it was basically a white guy, and he said that he was out in the club and some black girls came up to him and his group of friends. They did shots together and one of the black girls tried to make a move on him. And he was like to his friend, like basically they were off to the side and his friend said to him, like, why are you acting like that? And he was like, I don't like black girls, right? I don't find them attractive. Now the girls overheard him and started calling him a racist. You know, you hate black people, blah, 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 blah. And what I saw in the comment section, and he was like, well, am I a racist? Like, I'm kind of confused now. Does that make me racist? And in the comment section, there were black women in there saying, well, if you say that you wouldn't date a black woman, that is racism. You can't have this thing where you try and force people to be attracted to you.
Mm-hmm.
People are attracted to what they like. In fact, if you're not attracted to me, go ahead, go over there, be with who you want and do your thing. Because chances are, if I try and force you to be with me, you're not going to treat me the way you're meant to treat me anyway. Let them go over there, be happy, and find someone that likes you.
Well, hold on, brother. Then, Jessica, what do you have to say to black men who do not date black women, who prefer non-black women?
Same thing. Go ahead and do your thing.
Yeah, bro. JLC wanted to come in. JLC, what's on your mind, bro?
I want to talk about this football thing. Can I?
Yeah, one sec. Let me just wheel it in because we're talking about, you know, I guess, quote unquote, black on black racism. Here's the thing. Like this team that you can see on the screen, this is the Euro 2022 female England team who won the European Cup this weekend. Salute to them. But they got a lot of basically people clapping them up because they were saying that there's no black women in the team. And so there was this show on BBC, I don't know if it's BBC News or one of the other networks, where basically a lot of black girls were saying, well, when I look at the team, I don't see anyone who looks like me, so I can't really relate with them. And now there's a lot of white British people, you know, taking umbrage to that because it's like, if it was the other way around, you know, if white guys looked at someone like, I don't know, I'm going old school, Sol Campbell back in the day, and said, well, he's not a white lad, so I can't really relate to him. It's like he will get massacred, you know. So there's like this that we have to talk about this open, quote unquote, reverse racism. I know it's kind of like a cliche, but surely, I mean, you know, the people who are complaining about it have a point, right, JLC?
You got it from you. Okay, Tom, you go, but then I'll go.
Sorry, brother. This is unrelated, yeah, but when I look at these women, bro, none of them are attractive, man. Oh my gosh!
Come on.
These white women,
let's stick.
Thomas, they're not trying to look attractive for you.
They're athletes on the pitch, man.
They've got no makeup on. They're doing their work, you know.
They're athletes on the pitch, man. Let's show respect. They're an England team that won. Come on. But JLC, what's on your mind?
I mean, obviously you got that from the old. I'm not saying his channel, but I know which channel you listen to. The old man with the mustache, yeah. And I listen to him too. I actually like his honesty, and he represents the.
Yeah, you know what I mean. He not only. I'm gonna probably link his channel at one point, but it's like he's not your typical conservative. Like he actually knows a lot of African history. He actually knows a lot of African people by ethnic group, so he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But he's right, and this is true. We can't complain and say, we can't relate to them because they say the same thing.
There's a bit of static. Is there any way you could?
Is it better now?
A little bit. Maybe it's a plug issue. If you can just push in the plug or something.
Okay, better now at all?
Yeah, let's go for it. Still a bit static.
Yeah, cool. Basically, at the end of the day, I agree with what he's saying. You know, we can't say we can't relate to people because they're white, and then they say, I want my prime minister to be white, just like me, and English, just like me. So at the end of the day, people shouldn't complain when they say they find it easier to relate or even extend humanity to people that look like them, right? And sadly, as a people, black British people, we seem to have this problem where we don't look at our own people, fully black people, as a brother or a sister. We try to separate ourselves from that, whereas other communities, Jewish, Hindu, Chinese, they seem to understand the idea that outside of your family, it is your race or your ethnicity, your tribe, right? So you should go out your way to try and extend warmth and drop your boundaries and let people in more easily when they belong to your tribe or quote unquote your people. So I have no problem with an all-white English team. That's fine.
even still with those countries that you were talking about, China, they don't all get along. There's plenty different Chinese groups that hate each other.
Yeah, but here
If
they
you
don't.
actually
But
look
here in
into
the
them,
Canada,
no, even
they
here they don't get along. You think they get along because you see them, but that's only one group of Chinese people.
well, they have better unity than us because we don't have no Africa Town in Leicester Square or London like they do.
Do you know? Do you know the difference between them? Do you know that if they have the same unity that you think they have, or are they from one same group of people that have the same culture?
Yeah,
mean,
Because in the stat,
Han Chinese. Han Chinese.
not everyone from China is Chinese. China is literally so large that there's multiple different groups.
Okay, but they seem to this again. I'm getting sick of this people going for this granular thing. If you look at the census, if you look at Chinatown, if you look at the stream performers, if you look at the people who know Mandarin, if you look at Canada and they buy up properties in Vancouver, you can see the same thing of Jews in their Saturday school and they buy up entire streets in northwest London, okay? And Hindus do in Leicester, okay? Why can't we just admit that other groups practice strong English preference to a much higher degree and people have guilted the West and English people to try and shoehorn us in, whereas other countries haven't been cupped as much and they still enjoy separation and being around their own people. Italy team
Because
all
they're
white.
naturally an in-group. What black people generally have is a forced in-groupness because they are being pushed under pressure. Those groups are naturally in-group after many years of foundation without external forces forcing them to come in.
Many years of foundation. Indians came here after West Indians
Yes,
in mass.
but they have a unifying culture.
Okay, I
They have
agree.
a unifying culture that they can unify with, but most black people don't because there's the Caribbeans who are they're similar to the Africans, but there's a slight difference that you can clearly see between them. And they all know that. And even between Africans, there's slight difference between them, and they all know that. So if it's like that, you're forcing people from different places come together and they all have to act as one straight away.
But Indians do that. They've got many religions, many tribes, and many languages, but they come to the UK and they smash it. So,
can I go after whoever's talking?
This is after.
Can I just say something?
You look at India.
One sec, Karen. Let's let Don come in. I know it hasn't been in for a bit. Don Osman, and then we take it to Diego.
Yeah, I was going to say with regards to people complaining about the representation, the ethnic representation of the England squad. I'm sure in 2022 you have people who can look beyond skin color in order to relate to someone. I'm pretty sure that according to popular culture and all that, many black people can't relate to Kemi Badenoch or other black conservative people in the government.
Exactly.
And that's messed up, man. When I was following football, I can relate to Eric Cantona, David Beckham, Scholes. I never thought I can't relate. I'm looking at the skills and I'm trying to emulate that. Not
exactly.
Does she have braids or does she, that's nonsense.
And that's a bad sign in society as well, though, because you have people fixated about race and all that. So that's the thing I've noticed. Like I think for the past couple of years now, you've got people, particularly during COVID and all that, literally hyper-racialized. Everything's hyper-racialized and all that. Let's just say, I think there's 11 people in the squad in an England squad in the match. Therefore, 3 or 4% of the team has to be black and all that. For fair representation.
Yeah, what's not good enough?
And I'm thinking to myself, well, there's no Asian people in the England squad. Why is that? There's no, there's no Eastern Europeans who were born and raised in England are not in the England squad. So it's a slippery slope when you're looking at it. When you're looking at it, in a deeper perspective.
Yeah,
Don.
For sure.
Yeah.
Are you a lady or a man?
I'm a man.
He's a man.
Oh, okay.
You have such a feminine voice, man.
Come on. No,
No.
Come on, bro. What? Come on. We have unity here, man. We're a community now, man. But Diego wanted to say something.
Yeah. I think is it Kieran and JLC's into kind of exchange just about collective mindset, collectivizing. It reminds me of what I kind of have asserted many times on these streams. It's for black people in London, UK, whatever, to kind of coalesce or to work together. It has to be something that it can't be assumed into existence. It has to be something which is thrashed out and people have genuine they buy into it and see them, any merits, if at all, in doing so. Even though the Indians, for example, that started to come over, and I mean, there was a few Indians in the 60s, but they more so started coming in the 70s, right? They formed associations because they had more of, what's the word I'm looking for? They weren't spread out across different countries. It wasn't like they had the same kind of, shall I say, differences to the same degree that so-called black people do. So it was easier for them to establish associations, even though some of them didn't like each other. They still established associations because they saw some kind of greater good, and that there was intentional. Because I'm not sure if many people know, but until like 91, unofficially and on social level, Asians used to be seen, they called them black. You understand? They were part of the Black Panthers. In fact, it was an Asian man that got attacked that led to the 1965 race relations being passed. You understand? So why I'm trying to say that is these racial tags, whatever, have kind of shifted in some kind of flexibility. They're not necessarily set in stone. And not all black people want the same thing. Some people don't want to be attached to a so-called diaspora. They just want to assimilate. I think some people don't even know this, but by their actions, they demonstrate. Remember what I said before about if you look at the generations who send money back to their home countries, it doesn't tend to be the people that were born or raised here substantively. It tends to be the first generation. And so since most of them are either going to retire, die off imminently, right? Or what have you, then there's going to be a drop in that money over the coming years. So what I'm basically trying to say is that there isn't really an agenda. It doesn't make anybody bad. In many cases, people that are even here didn't necessarily choose to be here. If you look at the likes of either Sudanese or Congolese or Sierra Leonean, etc., a lot of these people came here off the back of civil wars or deep civil instability. You get what I'm saying? So, if that hadn't been the case, there's a good chunk of black people that probably wouldn't be here. Other people's parents are like political exiles, for example. So all I'm trying to say is that this is not a planned presence. I don't think many of the policymakers even anticipated the black population was going to, get to this point. So I'm just saying that I found it quite interesting. And I'll say this last thing before anybody else wants to speak. Countries that are more, you spoke about in-group preferences. Spain, Italy, all these countries didn't really have big empires like that. Obviously, England was at one point had the largest or second largest empire. I think
It's the largest
largest in history.
Yeah, exactly. So even though Germany had, I think, the third largest, right? They had Germany had the third largest at a point. They got their march basically after they beat. I don't really want to go into too much of history. Listen, after Germany under was it von Bismarck? After they beat was it France in the Franco-Prussian War, that gave them the march, and they were gonna supersede England or Britain rather in that African space. They wanted to encroach into Nigeria, and so they now the whole scramble. The so-called scramble for Africa, the Berlin Conference, that wasn't established to proactively. This was already to kind of.
Brother, is this a podcast? I'm not being funny, yeah, but like this is the history.
No, come on. We're late in. Let Brother Diego needs to let it.
I'm nearly done. There's no need for that interruption. I was just gonna finish my point. What I was trying to say is that Germany had the third largest, but because of what happened in the First World War and that, some of their colonies now went either into trusteeship or were passed under France's mandate. So what I'm trying to say is those countries that have more of a homogenous setup have it because they didn't have the depth of imperial activity that Britain had.
That's a good point.
That's the point I was making. JLC didn't need to interrupt me there. No need
Yeah,
for
man.
it.
Come on. Let's keep it respectful with everyone, man. Let's build it up.
Absolutely no need.
Yeah,
Because
but
he was
come
talking
on,
for a minute. You were talking for a minute, and I never
Okay,
bro,
interrupted
you
you.
were
okay,
talking
Chelsea.
for 5 minutes,
Okay.
Drake.
No.
That's a
Come
great
on.
point. That's
You
a
were
great
talking
point.
for a
One sec,
minute,
guys. One sec,
and I
guys.
never interrupted you. You
Guys.
understand? Guy, we
That's a
can
great
take it there,
point
to
from
be
Brother
honest, because
Diego.
the end
Great
of the day,
point
you
from
make a
Brother.
lot of.
Come on, guys. Come on, guys.
All I'm saying is Diego does go on these.
No. Come on, guys. Let's keep it cordial. Great point from Brother Diego. Yeah, that's an aspect I've never heard before. And that's why sometimes, it might be long-winded to you, but you have to let people say their point. We have to have patience, man. You can't just be short and snappy. We learn from everyone. But Diego, have you finished your point, bro?
Yeah, no, I'm done. I did kind of preempt. I did say that I was going to wrap up. The only reason why I'm mentioning this is because obviously with my book, right? Obviously, I can't go into the whole context. I've got how many hundreds of pages, but I just thought that I'd share that because sometimes people make certain points that aren't necessarily they're not as informed as they can be. And my thing is this: I don't ramble. I say things which are quite composite. You understand? I don't ramble. There's a logic and there's a method to what I actually share. If certain people are able to comprehend composite points, then they
Okay,
wouldn't.
so India. Okay, so India.
Okay.
He's still
We
talking.
get it.
He's still
JLC,
talking, Falcon.
you can come in. JLC, come on.
Chill out.
Come on, guys.
It's
Respect the host.
Chill out, man. Chill out.
Respect the
Have
host.
some self-restraint.
Come on. Nah. Guys, you're gonna respect me. You're gonna respect me. Okay, let's call it off. JLC, did you want to say something to the point of what Diego was saying, or anything related
Yeah,
to the topic?
I do. To say that every single country who does show an in-group preference must not have a big empire. France. I speak French. My dad is from a French colony. The point is that at the end of the day is that France would never have an ethnic running for any sort of big office. If you look at the last election, it was all French, francophone white. It was completely white. They had a massive empire. All these North Africans, all these blacks, they don't make an appearance in any election. Okay? So they had a big empire and they show a strong in-group preference. Just because you see the football team has got tons of Africans doesn't mean that they don't have a strong in-group preference. The British have a strong in-group preference as well. And what I'm trying to say is, when it gets to the point that we as a people will finally, I know the cultural differences, but at the end of the day, in the West, all the other groups, every single one, even the Indians who prefer not to be called brown, they're starting to unite under this label called brown. So when it comes to second and third generation, they're trying to get rid of
that mic, bro. I don't know if you can sort it out. I don't know if it's just me, but there's a lot of static there. What
Is it
are
better
you
now?
speaking through a phone or headphone? Say that again.
I'll take the headphones. So it should be better now. All I'm saying is this. Even second and third generation British Asians, they're getting rid of the whole tribal thing. They're calling themselves the word brown or British Asian. They form a new identity. They call themselves British Asian summer, British Asian music, British Asian thing. So it comes down to second and third generation. Doesn't matter if they're Bengali, Indian, Pakistani, they unite and they move forward. Every other group is doing this, but us, we don't. And this is what we beg for acceptance for some stupid football team, whereas they're going for high office. And they may even get the prime minister. What the hell's going on? And here we are about a football team. Who cares, right? And that's the time I'm trying to say is at the end of the day, France, big empire, and they still have a massive in-group preference, huge far-right presence. Le Pen always comes second, right? So please, I just want black people to finally realize that we could at least try to unite and maybe be a bit more racist ourselves instead of just mixing out and chasing for acceptance of people who don't even like us.
I think I agree with that.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Can black people be racist in the UK?
Yes, I think we should. Yeah, I agree with that, actually. I agree.
How can black people be racist in the UK?
The reason why, I think I agree with what Jason, if I get his name right, is I think sometimes we as a community, blacks, we sometimes pander to other communities, try to gain acceptance. We don't put ours first. And I'll add religion into this. To me, I believe religion sometimes is a very, very big barrier for us. And the reason why I'll add religion into is I've I remember when the George Floyd incident happened, and I was trying to really say that because that actually, I'm still receiving therapy for that because that actually traumatized me, and because I'm almost the same age as him. I'm not, people might call me weak-minded, but he traumatized me, and that's me. I'm never afraid to share that because if everyone can say someone getting their neck stepped on for 8 minutes is normal to them, good luck to them, but it's not normal to me. So that will affect. But the backlash I got from my community, especially from my church community, was just like, why are you focusing on racism, blah blah blah, just do what the Bible says. It's as if they put religion first. For us black people, we always find something to put above our color. That's the problem, and that what angers me. We always find something first to put, and thing was right. The Jews don't put anything above Jews come first. Indians the same thing.
But that's why the Jews are always hunted down, because they're so in group preference. Anything that goes wrong, the first people everyone looks at are the Jews.
And we're not hated. We're not hunted, right?
But I'm just trying. Can I just finish my point? I'm just trying to finish my point. But what I'm just trying to say, other cultures just put themselves first. They will take the backlash, but they will stand united and put themselves. They will not divide themselves or stop. Just trying to get other things, but they'll put themselves. And I think that's our problem. We don't put ourselves first. Either we put our religion first or put anything first, but we don't put our color first. And I'm just going to finish that point.
Great point. Carry on. What do you want to say?
Well, the reason why I'm gonna be honest, most reason why those other groups are so unified is because they generally have a cultural unification. Like, it glues them together more than just looking alike and being from generally the same regional area. Because if we're going to say that, then everyone in Europe should like each other, and we clearly know all Europeans do not like each other.
But I mean, if we talk about the Berlin Conference, like, they did unify together with their differences and joined up to colonize Africa.
Yes, that was for resources. Let's say this, they're going to do that for resources. Anyone do that for resources because they didn't want to wipe each other out. It was easier to do that than send soldiers in and just waste materials for a country that they could have split up. It's like, well, you get this part and you get that part, rather than, we're going to fight each other and lose blood over this when we can just trade. It makes sense, yes, and I agree with you. Black people generally should have a unification where they have a general idea that is productive to their community and does to some degree. We shouldn't close ourselves off completely from the external community that is England, so to say. We need to have some connection to them, so if anything goes wrong, they don't see us as an immediate threat, because that's going to happen. And remember, white people are still the majority of people. If they feel like every other group is becoming hostile to them, the first thing they'll do is small people start to go up, and we're already seeing it now. Small groups of people will be like, oh yeah, these people are a threat to us, and everyone's going to start. Those people are going to become more accepted. And soon as like, oh yeah, 40% of Europeans in England think every other group is a threat to them. When it gets to that point, it's extremely dangerous, because 40% that gets 60% of white people, that 40% can do a lot of damage to everyone else.
Okay, great points. I think Ephraim wanted to jump in because he unmuted. Is that right?
Can I go after him?
Yeah, sure, Diego. Ephraim, we can't hear you if you're speaking.
Hello, can you hear me?
It's a bit low. Maybe come a bit closer.
Hello?
Yeah, now it's better.
Okay. I
have. You're still a bit muffled, bro. I don't know
can't hear him.
Yeah, it's a bit too low.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, now it's better. Now it's better.
Okay. I have a question, and this might be way off topic, but also can relate. Do you think gentrification is the cause of this racism?
Cause of what type of racism? Are you being specific to a type of racism? Are you saying basically the destruction of traditionally quote unquote ethnic communities is why there is a rise in racism, for example?
I would say yes, because throughout the coming years, we do see certain communities are like going away, especially in central London, in terms of what's been going on with gentrification in certain areas that we used to grow up on, or where we are from, because that too can also bring the sense of racism.
I'll give you pushback, bro. A quick plug. Check out my my 360 channel, Blizzak 360. I just basically walk around in 360. I did a tour of Peckham, my hometown, and back about 20 years ago, I would often consciously avoid walking down the high street, especially after school, because I just know, something's gonna go down. I might get robbed. And back then it was old school. We're probably gonna be lined up and peeled. Jump up to hear the change. So I'll always avoid Peckham High Street. But now, like you can like there are like all these hipster type of people are like having a picnic, like there's all these outdoor cinemas and all of that stuff. It's like safer. It's so safe. So like, I mean, when these areas were not gentrified, was it any good for anyone anywhere? Gentrification
One
natural.
question, bro. Hold on, bro. Hold on. That at least you wanted to ask you that one question, bro, regarding Peckham. So, brother, you remember Peckham back in like the 90s, the early 2000s, right? As well as Brixton, where you couldn't walk down the streets when it was at night time. I remember very well. I couldn't go to Peckham and Brixton during those days. Why is that, bro? Why do you think that occurred?
Well, let Ephraim answer what I was bringing across. What do you think, Ephraim? Like, I mean,
well, I would say it does. With the gentrification happening, it has dropped a bit in terms of crime, even though it is prevalent, but not what it used to 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. Because the area which I was from, it was classified or declared by the news that it was the worst area in London. And that was like 15 years ago. But now when I come back to that area, it's just different now. And
but isn't that a good thing though? People are safer, people can mingle, people can travel.
I would say safe now, because the people that you grew up with, kind of like, some of them are old, some sadly passed, some are in prison. So that too can be a play into the whole new changes. And also because there is now new investment coming in, it kind of now affecting the whole ethnic community who used to be there years ago because of new flats happening, new shops around, and so on. With that in place, does that kind of increases that view of racism, or in which hostility is happening amongst those new, as you say, new hipsters coming in those areas?
Was that a question? Sorry, I didn't.
I would say, question, yeah.
Sorry, what was the question again? I thought you.
I mean, with those, with the new changes happening,
yeah,
those who lived previously, will it affect them?
Of course, it's happening. They're gonna be priced out, and moving outside, outer zone 4 kind of regions. But if at the end of the day the area is more commercial, people can trade, people can have their shops, people are buying, people can travel. That's doing more good to the economy, right? Than people who might have just been on, I hate to say it, benefits, just holding the council flat, free school meals, like not really, you know what I mean?
I was going to say that too. Like, it pushes out, as much as you can say it's gentrification, a lot of the time who they're pushing out are people that are on benefits. They're not contributing to the economy like that. In fact, the economy is what's paying for their accommodation. So it costs the government even more when those resources could be allocated elsewhere. So who is it really pushing out? I don't fully agree with gentrification, but in some instances, I'm not mad at it.
Yeah, man. Look.
Can I say something about that? Like, I'm gonna be honest. The reason why gentrification happens is because those areas are poor to a certain degree, and they weren't solidified in their being. You don't see rich places becoming gentrified. There's always the places that are, I'm gonna be honest, run down to
Chelsea, South Kensington.
Yeah, you don't see. It's always the places that are dangerous or unsafe and have low economic value coming in. So everyone's like, well, the place is cheap because the people there have technically run it down to a certain degree. And if the people are willing enough to gamble, they're technically gambling. That's what happened. The first people to ever gentrify a place are gamblers. And if they're lucky enough, they can get a lot of money. And after people come in after a period of time and they start to spread. But if the people that are originally there knew how to build a community, make sure that they were governing it themselves without having the government to come in and do the work for them, these places just wouldn't have these places. Those places will still have the original people there. There'll be no crimes. Like you said, that hey, there was crimes there. It was crazy. I had family that would live in these places.
Someone mentioned Damilola Taylor in the chat. I mean, that's another big, like, you know, but let me quickly shout out again Michael Meachrock the Fourth for 199 super sticker. I really appreciate your consistent support, bro. Good having you in the chat, one of the live mods. I think Diego wanted to jump in. Is that
yeah, dude, yeah. So yeah, what was I gonna say? It's the whole gentrification thing's kind of interesting, right? Because you know, Brixton's a good example. I know that people have spoken. No one's mentioned on this stream, funnily enough, but it's one of the examples cited when it comes to gentrification. Before Black people moved in, it was actually like a upper middle class suburb. That makes sense. Yeah. So in a way, you can make the argument that it's coming full circle. You get my point? So sometimes when you look at the history of these things, it's literally just things that are happening in the wider picture, and people, like you said, who are perhaps on the underclass, benefits, whatever you want to call it, are the ones who they're kind of caught in the crosshairs, if that makes sense. And it's not like they leave these people homeless. In many cases, they relocate them to other places, just as some people don't want to relocate to them places, That was one of the things I wanted to say. I'll run through it real quickly. The second thing, just so people kind of are aware of this, the Caribbean population obviously is the largest, was the initial one that came after Second World War, right? Their intention was to assimilate as soon as possible. The only reason why it didn't happen as soon as it did was because they were, the hostile environment that Labour put in, because they wanted to limit the flow of them coming. So that was the reason why. But for that, I reckon that they would have peaked much before they did, I think there was one last thing. I think someone said something in relation to the countries. I think it was something between you and Kieran, Falcon. That thing to do with the scramble and effectively establishing like the rules of the game so people didn't step on each other's toes, right?
Yeah.
What's interesting is that that's from the white side. From the black side, right? You can argue, I guess at the time there wasn't that consciousness, but you can argue that they could have collaborated. Because if you look at like how certain countries got colonized, it was other Black soldiers acting as mercenaries for the British because of obviously limitations like malaria and what have you. So just very quickly, you had Glover's houses, the liberated former slaves from Sierra Leone, the Hausa people. They were the ones that were instrumental in helping to colonize Ghana, and also swathes of what we now know as Nigeria. Wherever we're talking about the old Sokoto Caliphate, the Arab Confederacy, and even certain battles like the Ijebu expedition, I think of 1893. So all I was just basically saying was that the one common denominator across all those battles was that commodities, access to goods, you understand? And at the time, you had Black people that were limiting the profits of white traders because they were the ones that would control access to certain territory. So I just thought that I'd put that in there because you can argue that there could have been a scope for collaboration, but people thought their interests were more localized, and so what happened.
Yeah, great points, man. Great points. Anyone else want to take the floor?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, with regards to the gentrification thing and all that, I think it might demonstrate that there are a lot of people that are over reliant. They heavily rely on the government. Although we are, most people are skeptical about the government, as it's been demonstrated in the last 2 years, i.e. COVID and all that. When I look back at it and I think to myself, there are a lot of people that that heavily rely on the government.
Are you saying the people who mostly despise the government are also over reliant on the government as well? Is that what you're saying? I
think to some extent there's some truth to it. But some people, they work and all that, and they pay their bills and stuff like that. Some people who are heavily relying on the government, might be skeptical of the government.
Do you know what? in regards to the gentrification thing, I can see the downsides of it, right? The downsides are that it perpetuates the cycle of poverty, because if somebody's growing up on benefits, most likely they don't have much. You ship them out, you move them to towns and cities that have low economic prospects, and that cycle just repeats itself. So what it does is it puts people into a trap. So I do see the argument against gentrification, but what we have seen for the most part is you have areas like, listen, I was scared of Peckham. I've still never been to Peckham. I haven't been. I went to Brixton, and Brixton I had people try and fight me for no reason in Brixton, right? Like, for real. And it was just like, looking around, to me, it was a scary place. I've never seen so many people addicted to drugs, I'll call them that, just kind of just walking about doing their thing. Sure. So it was a scary place. So one, you do have, again, I see the downsides, that it perpetuates poverty, but then are the people that are within those areas necessarily taking advantage of the advantages that they have? Yeah. No, for the most part. And that's where the problem comes in.
Yeah, also, like, I know it's going to be a bit mad, anything like that, yeah, but like, I think that the government needs to, probably, clamp down on benefits and all that, to be honest. I think that,
Well, they did, because they did the benefits cap, right, for people with children. Yeah. So it stops people just having babies for money. So now, if you have more than 2 children, they don't pay you for those other children. It's like, if you can't afford them, don't have them. I think that's a very fair way to do it, because you're not necessarily restricting people's rights to have children. They say you can go ahead and have 2. That's kind of your basic right. If you want any more than that, then you need the finances to make sure that that happens. So they're trying. They're trying.
Yeah. Well, I think that. Sorry, I think that if someone, I think someone who's, let's say if a woman wants to, wants to have a child and all that, I think a woman who makes £25,000 a year or less shouldn't, be, planning to have a baby and all that. I think, she needs to be beyond the threshold, of £30,000. Particularly if she lives in London or the southeast.
Can we do full sterilisation?
No, not full sterilisation, but I think that there has to be some type of, common sense approach with regards to, poverty and all that. There has to be an incentive for people to, buy houses and all that. Benefits shouldn't be, a long-term solution. It should be a short-term solution for people.
Would that apply to men and women?
It should be applied for both men and women, yes.
Minimum salary? Okay.
At this situation in time, I've said this to friends before, this is just an opinion. I think if the Chinese needed the CCP and its brutalness to get them into shape to calm down birth rates, I said for black people in the West, we need CCP and Sharia law combined, because we're so
just for black people.
I mean, all people, but our group is the least disciplined, so we need the most
CCP
disciplined.
Screwed up. China has like one of the lowest populations.
Yeah, I know. I get it, but I'm just saying that we need not just we need Sharia law combined, because we use benefits so much, and our household income is so low because we don't even have stable families. It's sad, man. It's sad.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And most
I'm gonna be honest. A decent amount of black people's problems in Britain, or you could say, like in America too, is because our families are so fucked up. If I'm gonna be honest.
That would lead me to what I was going to say, because even when Don Osmond was talking, as well as Jessica X, I felt like the discussion was more so predicated on what values are the people sort of saturating themselves with, even when they're receiving benefits. Because when it was a discussion of, are you seizing upon the opportunities of your particular geographic location, in one aspect, I guess finances are important, but I guess we're more so peddled into the, well, what's your psychological state like? Are you able to seize upon your opportunities? Are you taking advantage of your educational bursaries, like apprenticeships, stuff of that nature? This thematically links to the previous live stream you had done, Falcon, because I had brought that study or the article where the researcher had said that even though welfare is higher in the UK compared to the US, the children who are raised on the benefits here do lack on every other area that they need to become a fully fulfilled person who's able to tackle the world. And so I feel like, in as much as people want to sort of adjust the rubric as to how much benefit someone should get, does the salary count and stuff like that, fundamentally, we're still ignoring the deficit that is inheriting generationally by virtue of them not growing up in a stable household, by virtue of, because the parents are working class parents, they're not in the household enough to sort of parent the child. The TV parents the child. And so because of these deficits, it means that the child's attention is taken away from things which make them a more productive human being. So they're sort of left to the influences of the world. They're left to sort of view the icons on TV as what they aspire to be. Case in point, a lot of these kids want to be drill rappers. A lot of these kids want to be entertainers because that's what they watch when they put on Disney Channel, Nickelodeon.
You know, the
And
saddest.
you know what? Oh, go ahead.
No, go for it, Jessica X.
Go for
No,
it.
I was just going to say that's why it's controversial, right? But I don't disagree with welfare. I think welfare is needed to a certain extent because as much as we can look at those adults for the decisions that they made, those children are innocents. They're innocents. They didn't choose the family that they come into. They didn't choose the circumstances, but we know the circumstances and family affects them. And that's not their fault. So I do believe that we need welfare. I do. People hate me for that, but I believe it should be there.
Can I
Salute
respond?
to Michael Meachok the fourth once again. Again, showing love. I have to shout him out with a 199 super sticker, man. I appreciate you always being consistent with it. Salute to you, bro.
Can I respond to that?
For sure.
Yeah. No, I agree with Jessica, to be honest. I know it's a controversial topic, but the bottom line is people fail to realize that even if you can make statements that there's more people being shanked and there are certain kind of criminal issues, it would be tenfold if there wasn't sufficient welfare. You know, at the end of the day, the idea of it is it's almost like, in a way, an implied social contract, so that the children, the offspring who come from, you know, sort of like working class, low class backgrounds will have some base level of survival. You know, you want to limit the likelihood of there being social costs. So that's literally why it's there. And I guess the most important thing, I mean, even with welfare, they do typically tend to have pathways into some kind of jobs or career path or one thing or another, even like business grants as well. So I think the function is needed, to be honest. And also, I know that on a direct level they don't work, so by extension they're not paying income taxes. But there's two things. One, there's several different businesses that actually benefit from, you know, these people actually being on those benefits. And then also on anything, most things they spend, they're spending, you know, is it indirect taxes, VAT? You understand? So it really depends on how you want to look at it. But there's any country that has no social programs, right? And it's like right wing, everything is private business. Shit real. Let me just say that.
Yeah, because people don't stop having children. They have the children. The children are just in extremely dire circumstances, you know?
Can I
Okay,
respond?
good points. JLC was in the queue.
I'm firmly against welfare, except in cases of severe physical or mental disability. And the reason for this is I believe that it facilitates shameful behavior and provides safety nets for people who have poor future planning. I think that it causes people to be dependent on people outside of their family. Again, and Ife is right on this. I do big up Asians a lot because I see Asians as a successful, and by Asians I mean all of them. Maybe Indians more so, but Pakistanis, they do well on a cultural level because they're very culturally strong. They basically never left their home country, and the children speak Urdu, all of them. But the thing is, the thing I get upset for is because they understand shame. They have very low STD rates. They marry their own people. They don't have as much benefit. Although, yes, Pakistanis and Bangladeshis have a hell of a lot of kids, so women don't work and they use benefits. I get that. That's true. But they also have a lot of entrepreneurs and they have their own businesses way more than we do. Okay? And Indians, don't get me started on them economically, right? And their own Gurdwaras and their Sikh temples and their Hindu temples. They buy their own houses. And even if there's 10 of them in a house, they own it. Right? And then they go and save money to go and get mortgage for themselves. By the age of 25, they have their own house. Right? So I get frustrated and I get annoyed because we are people without shame. We rely on the government instead of having families to look after us, to give us heads up. We have no inheritance. And I think big government facilitates failure in the West. And it's like heroin given to someone who is sick and has a bit of pain. You give them too much, you get addicted to it and become weak and dependent.
Why do why do we romanticize these other cultures like this? It's crazy because you led with I'm totally against welfare and I think it should just only be for people who are severely disabled. But then Bangladeshis are on welfare at a higher rate than any other ethnic group within the country.
Yeah, but they do better than us in GCSEs.
And you actually no, they're not.
Yes,
no, they're not. Bangladesh, Indian boys are up there, but so are Black African boys. Bangladeshi boys are not, right? Black Caribbean boys, I can say, is different. They're right at the bottom, along with white boys. But you're romanticizing them, saying Asians are so much better. You even mentioned Bangladeshis in your statement, but it's completely contradictory because they are on welfare at a higher rate than any other group.
Yeah, because their women don't work.
To be fair, JLC did mention specifically Indian and Pakistani. I think he left out
Bangladeshis.
I don't remember him saying that.
Hey, do you want me to rewind it?
Okay, no. Let's not do that. But that's a valid point that has been consistently brought up. Like we lump the Asians, quote unquote Asians, doing well. Well, I mean that's what I'm hunting for with the next few streams, man. I want to see the real data. So that's what I'm gonna look at. But I appreciate that. Look, guys, man, I appreciate everyone. We're gonna wind down a bit, but let's let King Genocide have his point of view, and then we're gonna go for closing thoughts. King Genocide, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be a part of this podcast, this live stream.
No problem.
Through the StreamYard. Hey, I appreciate y'all. So this is the Black British, the high level IQ, Y'all ain't even gotta be smart, but as long as you talk like that, you gonna get over on people. It's a joke. Look, I got to troll the jokes.
Okay, do you have anything else you wanted to say about
well, I like it was a wealth of knowledge. I liked what everybody was saying. Thanks, Jessica X, for bringing me up to this panel. I like everybody talking points, but I ain't really got much to say. But everybody want to hear me say something.
We appreciate you. Are you an ADOS brother?
Okay, so you want to hear it? You want to hear it? You want to hear the full description?
Yeah, let's hear it, bro. Let's go.
All right, let's go through the rundown. All right. So you could consider me ADOS, which is African descent of slave. You could consider me Foundation of Black American. I never made these titles up, but because people came up with these things and then different stuff happened, I wouldn't deny that. No, I went. Look, you ready for it?
Okay, bro. Okay, bro. We respect it, bro. Hey, we respect you, bro. We respect you. Shout out to all the ADOS FBA. We know who you are, man. Big respect to all of you. This was specifically about the Black British kind of disposition. So salute to you though. But
I just
if you had the point of view, I would have let you speak.
I apologize.
Apologize for what? What's wrong?
He said Jessica brought me up here. I think I apologize.
And Mr. Uganda co-signed him too, so I thought,
I didn't. To be fair, I was like, I knew how. I'm sorry.
No. King Genocide is good. I think it's a new sub, so I appreciate you, bro. It's just that we need to be on track. But now it's coming to the hour that I usually stream down. So please, any final thoughts on whether UK is racist, or are we too sensitive with regards to racism or traveling, etc.? Who wants to start with the final thoughts, and we'll wind it down.
I stand by my statement with regards to people over exaggerating about racism in the UK. I think there's racism in the UK. Mm-hmm. In regards to the workplace and all that, I haven't worked in a workplace, for quite a while, but just finished on my postgraduate in accounting finance. I've spent since 2020 been studying on it and all that. I think in 2022, if a person is racist, particularly in the workplace, or even at university or any public institution or establishment, I think that person, is suicidal. Is what I think. You have to question, that person's mentality and all that. For instance, if someone says, okay, I remember one time, like when I was, when I was in college and all that. There's a teacher of mine and all that. He said basically, Don, you look like an exotic African or something like that. That's what he told me and all that. And I thought to myself, I did tell him, well, I'm East African and all that. But when I look back at it and I think to myself, what did he mean by that? I knew he didn't. I knew he didn't. Mention. He didn't mean it in a negative manner.
Negative light, yeah.
But I think that for first, he also later, as he teach the class and all that, as the months gone by and all that, he disclosed that his brother was going to get married to a non-white woman, and his mother specifically was totally against it and all that. The reason why she was against it was because of her potential daughter-in-law's skin color. And I think that basically, and also he lived outside of the city. He lives in, I think he said he was from Surrey and all that, the home counties and all that. So I thought to myself, well, that person might not be racist and all that, but he's probably from a generation where the similar generations of my grandparents and all that. So we're talking about
I mean, I think the general term quote-unquote
1940s,
racism can be played out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of played out, and it could mean different things to different people. I mean, but I appreciate you, Don Osman, man. I appreciate you coming up. Don't listen to these guys if they say anything about how you sound, man. You're cool with me.
Yeah, a lot of actually, a lot of people actually, make that, those mistakes in regards to my gender.
It's all good, man. It's all good. We don't need to go into that. But I appreciate you. Who wants to go next in the final thoughts?
I would say to Don, I really wasn't trying to be offensive, so sorry if you were offended by it. But I'm not going to stay up for too long. Just, I think mainly, again, this is Black British men, so I just came up because Thomas kind of called on me. So I'll leave you guys to it. This is more your topic, but thank you.
Generally speaking, for all Black British people, but for the algorithm, I need to kind of segment ish, But I appreciate your input and your support as always, Jessica X.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, salute to you. Who wants to go next? Someone?
I guess I'll go. Well, I do say Britain as a whole does have some racist people. No country wouldn't. But I wouldn't say it's a high majority. And if it is a high majority, those people aren't acting on it. At the same time, there are certain things that we as Black people, especially Black men, are extremely sensitive to because what we have seen or what we have heard from the people, our family or our friends or even like neighbors. So we are sometimes a little bit sensitive to certain things. Some people might not be malicious with what they say, but it might come as wrong as us because we heard, I heard someone else say that and they meant it that way, but this person could mean in a positive way. So there's like a whole shebang. There's positives and negatives in this whole world. But Britain does have some racist people, but I wouldn't say it's a high degree. And if it is a high degree, they're not acting upon their negative points.
Okay, great points, man. Good to have you on. I think this is your first time on the stream, on my stream.
Someone from Discord server said, let's check this out. And I was like, okay, but
appreciate you.
Around. See you guys later.
Yeah. See you soon, man. I appreciate you for hopping on.
Yeah.
Who wants to go next?
Yeah, I'll go. Thanks a bit. Let me on the show, man.
Anytime, man. You're a resident, so feel free to hop on.
It's fun. But one thing I will say, grouping people together, okay? if you look at the national IQ tests, okay, the international IQ test, I know Diego's going to come in and say an IQ test is rubbish, I get it. But at the end of the day, if you look at the top scorers, they're all based around a certain geographical region. Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, Japan, Korea, okay? So I don't see this whole thing. We have to differentiate to see who's doing worse, or we have to look under the microscope to tell the difference. You know, let's be real. Generalization wise, okay, Jewish, Hindu areas are nicer. They have higher income, higher rates of home ownership, and lower crime. In the UK, black areas, the few that remain, tend to be poorer, lower home ownership, lower property values, higher crime. Okay, so I'm not going to waste time saying, oh look, Somalis are doing much worse than the Yorubas. Or no, it's a cross basis thing. It's big enough. The trend is large enough, and the differences are not big enough for us to make these little small differences. Okay, because the difference between a Somali and Nigerian, okay, trust me, is not be that big compared to a Chinese and a Nigerian. Chinese are doing way better. Jews are doing way better, and we have to be honest with ourselves and say the UK may have a little bit of racism. Okay, but it's not stopping the Indians and the Hindus. It's not stopping the Pakistanis, and it's not stopping Jews and the Chinese. Okay, so are we sensitive to racism quickly? My answer is not enough, because if you were, we'd be practicing and doing way more things like the other groups do, regardless of quote unquote different cultures and stuff like that. We have a lot more in common, okay, besides ancestry, than we care to appreciate.
Great point, brother JLC, man. I appreciate you hopping on as always. Great points. Anyone want to go next?
I'll just quickly jump off JLC's comment, and I'll just say that I'm not at dissatisfaction as far as our level of sensitivity, but we definitely need to inspect our responses. A lot of times I don't feel like our responses are adequate. We could do much better in our responses. And to be fair, like JLC said, I don't think, as much as people sort of talk about how dissatisfied they are with the system, there's not like I don't sense that there's a level of disappointment or frustration, a lack of sincerity. Actually, that's what I detect is what's going on here. So I need the response to be sincere, and I think then we'll start to see changes, or people will be able to navigate without having so much headache. But that's all I've got. Thank you for letting me on.
Yeah, no, great having you on as always, man. I appreciate your perspective and appreciate you for supporting the stream too, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Who would like to go next?
Looks like his name.
Yeah, brother Ephraim.
Yes, but fucking nice live stream. Good live stream.
Appreciate that.
About racism, racism will always be like the pandemic that we had 2 years ago. It's always advancing. It's always a way of evolution to make sure that us ourselves as black people, we're always going to be subjugated, but we're not. I think the only way for us as black people when we face racism is to kind of like acknowledge it and take it as a way of turn that. It's not like, how can I explain it? Make that turn that negative into a positive.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you can't please everybody. And especially if you're living in a first world country, you're always going to be second class. No matter how they try to fancy it or make it better, you're always going to be second class. So it's best for you to take those negatives and turn into a positive for yourself and the people that you're in. Because at the end of the day, comparing yourself to other groups, doing this, doing that, is not going to benefit you anyway, anytime soon. So the best way forward is to focus on what your plan is and so on and so forth. Know what's right for you, and especially if you have negativity, just turn negativity into positivity. That's it.
Okay, I appreciate your insight as always, Ephraim. Good to have you on.
Good to see you. Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah, peace out, no problem. And finally, brother Diego, with the closing thought.
Yeah, I'll try to keep this as quick as I can. So, with respect to sensitivity, I think it's important to be balanced. Racism I think people are going to have different experiences. If you're someone that grew up outside of the UK, then you move here, you're going to have a different experience than someone that grew up here. In fact, I've even seen instances many times where in corporate environments, the African that has moved here is more preferred than the African that was born and raised here. Seen it several times. I don't know why that is, but that is foreign blacks seem to have a better experience, and I've even spoken on the all acknowledged it. So I think context is very important. I think he can be a successful, in quote, black man in this country. I think it may take a bit longer to navigate the path of progress, but I do think it's possible. I think it comes down to survival of the fittest, to be honest. It's a marathon. And I think there's a philosophy that's needed. What's the end goal at the end of the day? And what's the easiest way? When I say easiest way, the best way in terms of not subjecting yourself to certain experiences, because again, the job, it depends on the job. You're going to have different experiences depending on who you are. So to summarize on that point, right? To summarize on that point, I do think that it's important to be balanced, not hypersensitive, but at the same time aware that it can crop up. You understand? So that's my take on it. And then just lastly, when it comes down to what was I going to say now? When it comes down to like the different communities, so to speak, it's important to recognize the distinctions. I just need to be very clear on that. I don't think grouping black people and comparing them to Jews is the best thing to do. I've been in Jewish spaces. I've gone to school with Jewish people. Do you understand? And in many cases, the initial set of them came here under different circumstances, even pre Holocaust or anything like that. You know, they've already had a presence here. You get my point? Going back to like the 1800s. In fact, there was even a Jewish prime minister. Do you understand? So their situation is very different, and not just that, but they have a global network. So there's a lot of factors at play, if that makes sense. And then real quickly as well, when it comes down to the trajectory of black people in this country since, like basically the Windrush is a good example of this, right? They were impacted by sus laws. Do you get my point? You know what sus laws is? You know where essentially you can police can literally just say, you look suspicious.
You look suspicious, yeah.
Yeah, so I was impacted by them, but the roots go back to, again, it's down to America. America wants to control the drugs trade, so they pushed everybody to adopt legislation. Britain were quite liberal about drugs, funnily enough. They adopted the Misuse Drugs Act, MDA, 1972. That basically followed by precipitous over-policing of black males in particular, right? I'll pretty much wrap up. These guys in question, in fact, many of the Caribbean people that came, they were educated, they were middle class. Structurally, because of their experiences, they now end up being pushed down into the working class when they got here, right? Now, many of their children didn't have access to the same kind of vocational educational opportunities. Even now, it's only in 2022 that banks are saying, oh, crap, we haven't financed enough black businesses on a proportionate level, lower than the percentage of the population. So we now need to actually actively seek black businesses to actually help them. Do you understand? So back then, I've got, like the Brixton riots of 81, you had the Broadwater, all of that. There was a report written by one of the senior QCs, Lord Scarman. Yeah, I've got the report with me now. And in that report, I ain't going to go into all of it, several pages long, a couple of hundred at least pages long. But long story short, this was written in 1981. He said that in order to basically deal with the kind of issues you see in Brixton, the issues here, and so on and so forth, in some of the inner cities, you're going to have to increase the workshops that will give black boys the skills to kind of get into business and also provide business funding. Margaret Thatcher blocked that. Do you understand? So the reality is, one can take a view of things in snapshot, and what they say might make sense if they're looking at it in a vacuum. But if you look at the precipitating events, you see that there's a certain kind of pattern, and there's not been like a clean break in terms of, okay, we were racist pre-2000, we're no longer racist. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So it really depends, but I will leave it there. So much more I can say, but I'll leave it there, man.
Yeah, for sure. Great points as always, though, man. And I appreciate everyone for jumping on, because yeah, this stream was 50-50, but for this conversation, it's important to keep it going. So again, expect me Tuesday, Friday in the hour of 10. We're going to speak about Black British topics. Fridays, I'll try to make it more statistic based, so more stats up like last time. But yeah, I appreciate the conversation from everyone. you know, if we're sensitive towards racism and the whole issue with traveling and, you know, the poor brother that got beat to death in Italy, man, these are things that we really need to be discussing, right? So I appreciate everyone who jumped on the panel, everyone who supported in the comments, the super chats, the like, everyone who liked the stream and will comment afterward. I appreciate everyone. But until next time, it's Falcon Blizzard and everyone else, and we'll see you on Friday. Okay, so peace, everyone.
Peace.
Peace.